everybody, and welcome to the Maurice Brown Comedy Show on bogradio.fm. We have a very special show for you today. This is the Comedy in the Kingdom Tour edition. And today we're just going to bring out the comedians that are a part of the Comedy in the Kingdom Tour. It's going to be Casey Peruski and Felicia Frazier. We're going to bring out our first comedian who's going to be the feature of the show, and she's also a very good friend to the Maurice Brown Comedy Show. You've seen her on Breaking Down the Four Walls. She's been hanging out with Shanita Chocolate Morris and Martin on At the Table every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. The comedians get together and talk about what's happening in Christian comedy, the state of comedy, and this lady right here out of Pompano Beach, Florida, is very well known in the Florida area. I could go on and on and on about this lady. Please welcome Felicia Fefe Frazier. What's up, Fefe?
Whoop, whoop. Hey, Maurice. I'm doing well. How are you?
I am doing great. I'm ready for this comedy show. You know what I'm saying? I'm ready to get this thing popping. This is going to be a good one. I'm ready to go.
I've never heard you say poppin'. That is great.
Yeah, you know, we got to throw a little hood in there every now and then. Anyway, Fefe, it's great to have you on the show. We're also going to bring out our headliner for this show in Fort Pierce, Casey Peruski, born in Detroit, Michigan, grew up in Jensen Beach for most of his life. He's a husband and a father. He's done so much in his 20 plus years as a comedy performer. His comedy special, Doing Pretty Good, filmed with Dry Bar Comedy, has been getting rave reviews, streaming on all major platforms. He's also been seen on TV's Funny Not Famous and The Lowdown on Xfinity, along with appearances at Comedy Central South Beach Festival and a supporting role in the movie The Resurrection. He's also had the opportunity to work with dozens of the biggest names in the comedy world, like Brian Regan. You got to love Brian. Brian Regan is awesome. Arsenio Hall, Louis Anderson, Dave Coulier, Preacher Lawson, Kevin Nealon from Saturday Night Live from back in the day, Nick Swartzen, Rob Schneider, George Wallace, wildly funny dude, Trey Kennedy, and John Christ, just to name some of the many. With no further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the very funny from Detroit, Michigan, Casey Peruski. What's up, Casey?
Oh, man. I didn't even know I did all those things.
Yeah.
You sure about that?
Casey, you did a lot.
I got hacked, I think. This is an Amway interview, right? I'm trying to join Amway. Am I in the right room?
You're in the right room, Casey. That was you, dude. That was
me. That was me. Don't deny. Hey, keep grinding, man, and good things happen, right?
You've had the opportunity to work with some really big swingers in the comedy game, man. I love Brian Regan. I mean, Brian Regan is arguably the funniest dude out there. He just doesn't get the pub like, the guys like Dave Chappelle and Kevin, the guy, or even Jerry Seinfeld, but he's right up there with them. Man,
he's selling out theaters like crazy, so something's working, right? And he brings whole families come to his show too. But funny is funny. You don't even think if he's it's clean or what. You're just laughing your butt off.
No, you don't think he's. Well, see, that's just it. And that's the reason for this comedy tour. It really doesn't matter to anyone what you're talking about, first of all, as long as you're funny.
Right.
Yeah. Funny.
Nobody cares. If you're funny, that's the main thing.
No matter how famous you are, you still got a couple minutes to make me chuckle in a stand-up situation. Like, all right, that's enough, Oprah. Move on.
Listen, let me tell you something. Jerry Seinfeld said once when he was introduced right after the show, his first time out, he hadn't done comedy hardly any during that run of Seinfeld. So he did his first show, and they gave him like 2 freebies. Yeah, you know what I mean? Because he was Jerry Seinfeld. They just laughed because he was on the stage. After that, they went crickets on him.
Yeah.
Wow. You see what I'm saying?
You got to bring it. So
you've got to bring it. I mean, you can be a great comic, and people will give you a pass for about a minute.
Funny.
Hey, you better give me something good now.
A good opener.
And you got to be ready too. You know, when I did some of those Brian Regan shows, they were actually in a comedy club setting, which was rare. He doesn't do comedy clubs now, and this was still 5+ years ago or so.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't do it then. But this particular comedy club could sit 500 people, and he had some demands that he would. And one of them was he doesn't want to deal with the check drop.
Yeah.
He wants to let me just do my material. And then, I was initially hired as just the check drop set.
Okay.
So it was his brother, Dennis Regan, who's also been on Letterman and Leno.
Hilarious. Dennis is hilarious.
Awesome. Yeah, I got to work with him a bunch of times as well. Brian, and then I was going to be the set after Brian.
Yeah.
But they go, it's kind of awkward when we just bring this third comic out of nowhere. So we'll have you host the show, which was amazing. I did 20 minutes in front of 500 people 4 or 5 times. And then I did a 20 minutes after, which was horrible because it was like 9% of the audience. And not only that, I had to follow Brian Regan's current hour he was doing. Then he goes back, I call him back up. He does an encore and does best of jokes for like 20 minutes. And then me. I'm like, who made this plan? This is not this. And everyone's doing math too. What did you get? You got chicken? You got the fries? They're not listening to my jokes anymore. So that was difficult, but it was an honor I got the best of both worlds. I got to open and I got to close the same show.
It's really tough when you have to compete against the chicken.
Yes. Right.
You're going to lose every time.
You're going to lose every time.
I did a show and there was serving lobster while I was going up there. I go, I will never beat lobster. I can never be funnier than lobster is delicious.
Listen, I couldn't even win against bread. Cheez-Its. It's not fair.
Well, you know what? Hopefully we'll definitely Yeah, go ahead, Casey.
Just before we get Brian Regan also shows you how smart this guy is, how fast-witted. I wish I had recorded this.
Yeah.
But he goes, hey, how do you say your last name again? Right before I go on stage, I go Peruski, like the country, Peru, and skiing. And he goes, oh, okay. So he goes up and goes, hey, how about Casey, everyone? He is hilarious. Boy, I really messed up his name last show because he says it's a South American country and a recreational activity. And I go, one more time for Casey, Argentina bobsled. I go, oh, I wish I recorded Brian Regan doing a joke about my last name. How great would that have been?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Barnabas, watching from Uganda, thanks for tuning in, man.
Excellent.
We're working on getting tickets for $10 to be viewed online, Uganda. We're working on that. Once we get that settled, we'll let you know. You're watching
off my Ugandan material. I didn't plan.
Yeah, man, absolutely.
I didn't know.
Folks, you're listening to the Maurice Broad Comedy Show on bogradio.fm. We're talking about the Comedy in the Kingdom tour, which kicks off August 3rd in Fort Pierce, Florida. And it features these two folks you're looking at on the screen. Feature Felicia, Frazier, and Casey Peruski. The tickets are $25, early bird special. Use promo early bird. And $30 at the door. Fort Pierce, Saturday, August 3rd, 7 o'clock. Doors open at 6 p.m. We were talking about Brian Regan. And Brian Regan, I got to say one more thing about Brian Regan. I love Brian Regan. Brian Regan said, I wonder why the catch of the day is always fish. I mean, don't you have to catch all the animals?
Yeah.
He said, the cow, he said, is like, he said, imagine trying to catch a cow that doesn't want to be slaughtered. He said he went to a seafood restaurant and he said the catch of the day was escargot. And he looked in the kitchen and he saw the guy, the chef was bent over going, the guy's facial expression. The guy's facial expressions are
right. Without even saying a word, you're getting laughs out of him.
I digress, ladies and gentlemen. We're Fefe, have you ever seen Brian Regan?
I think I have. I can't recall. You know what? I try not to watch comics because
really
it's tricky because you don't want to take their material by osmosis.
Well, the cadence. I was working with Tom Rhodes, and he has a unique cadence, and even some other comics have mimicked him over the years. Have taken. Why am I blanking? Mitch Hedberg looked up to Tom Rhodes and kind of picked up
awesome
some of that. But I worked the weekend with Tom early in my career, and I'm like, I'm starting to talk like him. I was really enjoying the show, but you're hearing this 7 times of the guy doing an hour, and then you're like, and you start the, but you got to break it down the formula wise. You're like, why was that funny? Oh, that was funny because he said it in a unique way. I need to find a unique way that my phraseology can stand out as my own, and that's it's you learn along the way. But yeah, you watch these masters, but it's hard not to just copy them because it works.
Yeah.
Well, it is, and you don't want to do that. Sometimes you can't. I like what you said, Fifi. If you really like watching certain comics by osmosis, sometimes you could end up mimicking them and not even realize it. Heck, in real life, you can be talking to someone and you just kind of slip into a George Wallace kind of aura. You don't even realize what you're doing. So I mean that does make sense.
It's human nature. That's how we learned how to speak. That's how we learned social cues. It's so if you're really, really looking at someone or, really studying someone, it comes out. It comes out. You don't even try to sometimes. It's like, oh, wait, like I've been on stage and I'll say something and I'll be like in my mind, like, wait, that was so-and-so's joke. Why did you say that? Next joke.
Right. Well, I like what you're saying. Also think what Casey mentioned a moment or two ago, I believe. And sometimes it's good because you're kind of learning cadences, You're learning how to perfect some things that you may or may not have perfected yet. You know what I mean? And so you're kind of learning at the same time as well,
Yeah, I think Brian said, actually, don't quote me on it, but I'm pretty sure he said that he didn't really listen to any comedy. He was just did his own thing and found his voice, and look how well it did for him.
Right.
Well,
and someone else.
Well, and here's another thing too I love about stand-up comedy. There's so many different styles that everybody's got. Everybody's got just these different ways of going about it. And you I just like to glean from everybody. Just take a little bit of what everybody does.
I always start with the basis of if it makes me laugh, somebody in the audience is going to think it's funny too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Be true to yourself for sure. If it's funny to you, go for it.
You ever done a show where you're up there and there's some people up there that are giving you a stone face? And when you get off, they go, "You were great."
Yeah. I don't know how to express emotions.
Really? There are people out there that like what you're doing and they just don't show any emotion.
Or they're just polite at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Kind of throw you out.
Caribbeans are like that. A lot of Caribbean people.
Are they really?
I've done quite a few like shows where there was like a lot of Caribbeans in the audience and like they'd be sitting there like and then after the show they're like, "You are good. You are good." And I'm like,
listen, guys, I tell you right now, I'm going to say one more thing about this. I'm going to introduce you guys to the audience, let you tell everyone about how you got started in this comedy game. But I'll tell you right now, one of the things that I love about comedy, it doesn't feel good at the time, but there's so many things that can throw you off up there. If you look out there in that audience, you see all kinds of expressions. And sometimes it can throw you off if you allow it to. It's like, okay, you got to ignore that. Oh, these people over here, they're having a good time. I'm going to start focusing on them. Or somebody could drop the dishes, or someone can make a noise that didn't sound right. Like, what was that? I mean, you got to, forget it. Keep rolling. You just got to ignore it.
And sometimes you can't.
And sometimes, sometimes you can. Sometimes you can't.
It's like being a teacher. You got to pick your battles. Some battles are worth fighting. Like when I was hosting an event one time, big theater. There were like 700 people in this theater, and one of the one of the stage crew guys came out to move like a wire and completely fell. And I came out and I was like, should I ignore or should I say something about it? And I'm hosting, so I came out and I was like, hey, wait a minute. We don't have that kind of insurance that's coming out of your check. And the whole audience fell out laughing because it was like everybody saw it. So I couldn't be like, pay no attention to what's behind the glass wall.
I did a charity event at an improv, and I get there, and I'm thinking I'm early. The place is packed, and it feels like I'm at the Super Bowl. Everyone's just talking, and they're loud, and they're drinking. and it's heavy partying going on. I go, wow, this is crazy for a charity event. Then it's a stomach cancer fund, and the woman that had the cancer that started it, she speaks. They're just talking through her. They're not even listening to her. Then like the guy that donated $100,000, they're talking through him. They're like, all right, you're a comedian, Casey Peruski. I'm like, how are they going to listen to me? But I go up there and they had one of these signs for door signs that was kind of behind me, and it snapped in two and just fell. And I look back and I go, hey, that's what happens when you eat Mexican food. And the place erupted like a volcano, and I had every one of their attention, and I just crushed the rest of the way. And I was like, how? I thought I was going into the worst pit ever. And just I had to react to what happened. They liked that I reacted, and he is funny. I proved the magic trick in front of them. Yeah. I performed it live, the crowd work stuff, and then I was off and running. It was amazing.
It's amazing how it's just like, so you can be going into a pit. He's like, okay, I'm getting ready to bomb. I'm getting ready to crash. And it's like, I have a friend of mine who will go, all right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. This has been great. Have a great night. And walks off the stage. It's like, I'm not doing this, right? And he's funny, but he doesn't do well when the plane's going down. He's like, I'm out. I'm just not going to do it. But Casey has a great point you bring up, man, because it can happen. Those divots can happen. Like, okay, how am I going to get out of this? I'll tell you, go ahead, Casey.
I was going to say, and then you have the opposite. I remember doing like a same club, and I'm doing like a Century Village type of very old clientele. And they probably just had enough energy to eat the salad. They're like, I cannot listen and laugh and enjoy. So I'm focusing on the salad. That's all you get. And it was me and a second comedian. And I'm like, I never wanted to see a friend bomb. But I hope this guy bombs, because they didn't even listen. Like 2 nurses were the only one that listened to me of these like 200 people. They're like, we liked it, but they can't lift their neck anymore. Like that's as high as the head can go.
Oh my gosh.
But that's more on the audience on that one.
Now, this is why I don't do senior citizen establishments anymore. It's so hard for me. Some people can do a good job, but like every experience I've had, it's been sort of like
it's a tough.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a tough go. It's nice though. It's like, okay, I just booked a 3:00 show and made a couple bucks. At least I got that out of the way. I can still go do a real show and watch this one off.
Oh yeah.
They appreciate anything. I just tell them I'm their grandson, and they're like, "Oh, very good. You're very good."
I love it.
I didn't know my grandson was white. This is great.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the Maurice Brown Comedy Show on bogradio.fm. We're talking with Casey Peruski and Felicia Frazier. They're going to be the feature and headliner, respectively, on the Comedy in the Kingdom tour coming your way in Fort Pierce, Florida on August 3rd at 7 p.m. Doors open at 6. You can get your tickets early for $25 on ticketbud.com. All you got to do is use the promo code EARLYBIRD, and you can get your tickets for $25. Or if you just want to be a boss and show up and say, I'll pay the $30, I got this, you can do that. So that's going to be August 3rd at Fort Pierce, Florida. But I want now for you guys to get an opportunity to meet these guys, because Casey is actually a Floridian. Actually, he's been in Florida a long time. He's actually from Detroit. But Casey, tell us how you got started in stand-up.
I was always a funny kid, but I wasn't like class clown funny. Like everyone look at me. I didn't need attention, but I always loved stand-up. Our family would watch Saturday Night Live. It's like I'm staying up late, and Toons the Cat sketches on, that. And we had lots of laughing. So, but in college, I had a buddy sign me up at an open mic, and we're at like a pool hall, and I didn't know he did it. He goes, "Hey, I signed you up. You got to do comedy."
Oh, wow.
I go, "What?" And I was really flipping out. I'm like, "I'm not ready. I'm not going to do this."
Whoa.
And then I started looking around, and there's 3 people in the room. Lauren Michael from Saturday Night Live is probably not one of the 3 people at Tallahassee, Florida.
Probably not, Casey. Yes.
And it was actually, by the time I went up, it was after midnight at this particular place, and which made it my birthday at that time too. So my comedy, first time I went on stage, was my 20th birthday, and I'll be 45 in a couple of weeks. So it'll be 25 years I've been doing this.
Wow.
Based on that point, but I pretty much did it the whole time. But it was crazy too. So I did, and I loved it. And I loved just the 2-3 jokes I did. So I just thought of funny ideas all week long and just wrote down just that idea. And then I'd flesh it out into a joke. And then I'd try them every Wednesday night or whatever it was that they had them there.
Yeah.
And then I had this crazy dream where it's me and we're all taking an escalator to heaven. And they say, hey, do you want to get into heaven? And I said, yes. And they go, okay, welcome. That's all I had to do. And I get in, and it's beautiful. It's all the images you hear of, the streets of gold and diamonds and mansions. And I'm going around trying to make people laugh. I'm going around trying to share my gift of humor. And I'm trying to make these people laugh. And then the people would look at me and go, oh, laughter isn't only an earthly thing. And then I woke up. And then I realized there was so much joy in heaven that laughter, the world needs laughter. There's sorrow down here. You need laughter. And that morning I went to the Real Comedy Club, and I felt like I was led to just get in the club, and I started working clubs, and I just started taking my career to the next level. So that's kind of how I really got going. Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy. And I tell you, your friends, they played a dirty joke on you, but they got you started, man. That's pretty cool. I love it.
That's right. Yeah. That's also why I'm into Mona V, the wine distribution selling. I'm just kidding. That's just a joke.
It's like, what?
That was left ball. What was the other thing? Amway. Amway was the other thing. They signed me up for Amway, and I'm a Jehovah's Witness now. They'd signed me up for that too. They're doing it everywhere. So, they're guiding my life. But no, they recognized that that I had humor, and that I was good at it, and I'm really good off the cuff usually. So that's probably where it showed. And what stand-up takes work. You gotta work on your craft, edit your words, clean the edges off, and present the best thing possible. Hopefully this works. I hope this is the best thing that works. Usually it does after you work on it long enough.
Well, and that's just it. A lot of people are naturally funny at dinner parties, in the locker room, or on the corner hanging out with the fellows, whatever. But that's not stand-up comedy. Uh-huh. And then once you get up there, you have the gift of humor, but being good at stand-up is a skill. I had kind of the same experience. I was a radio announcer, and the manager thought I was really funny and I should do stand-up. So I went down to Charlie Goodnight's in Raleigh, North Carolina, and I had to go against like 20, 25 people. They only picked 4, and I was one of the 4.
Oh, great.
And it was at North Carolina State University. So you got all these crazy college kids screaming. They've been drinking. I mean, out of control.
That's funny.
And I'm on a stage right there, surrounded by all these crazy kids. I never done stand-up before. Wow. And you talk about blown away with just intimidation. I'm like, whoa, this is not just like telling jokes on the radio. But I got through it okay. But I like what you said. You learn over time. This is a skill that you have to learn. Mm-hmm. Fefe, tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got started in this crazy game.
Oh man, there's so many layers to the reason why I'm doing stand-up comedy now. But I'll try to edit it down for you. I've always known I wanted to be a performer. I have a bachelor's in theater.
Okay.
So I love acting and all of that. But I've always been very funny. Like when I was a little girl, I used to impersonate Jim Carrey to make my friends laugh.
I'd love to see that, Fefe.
Oh, it was amazing. It was great. But
okay.
When my growing up in church, my church used to always do like pageants and like things where they would do like skits and plays for different holidays and things like that. And I never had an issue with, being in front of the audience. Like all the other kids would be like sweating and falling out. And I'd be like, can I have more to say? And they were like, you are just so. So that was kind of how I got started. When I was about 16, No, actually, when I was 13, somewhere between 13 and 16, my brother and I decided to do a comedy skit at a youth event at the church.
Okay.
And it was so funny. A lot of it was just my brother saying, I'm gonna do this and then you do that. And I'm saying, okay. And we did it, and we got a standing ovation. And my pastor was like, y'all doing that every fourth Sunday from now on. And we were like, okay, you know. So that went on for a few months or what have you. My brother helped me write my first set when I was 16.
Okay.
And I did it for a talent show. And I win. I didn't win the talent show. I think I came in second place.
Okay.
But that was like the moment where I was like, I could really think about doing this. So fast forward, I went to college for theater, did theater all through high school. Of course, I was president of the drama club and all other things that are necessary for anybody who wants to be a performer when you're 17.
Right.
Anyway, went to college and did my first open mic at college.
Yeah, okay.
And it was a student union, something or another.
Yeah.
It was dreadful. But they laughed, and there was one girl that came up to me after the event, and she was like, "You are so funny. I was so sad today." She was like, I was planning on going to my room and probably taking a whole bunch of pain pills because I just been sad all day.
Oh, wow.
But you made me feel so much better. And I was just standing there like tears coming down, like, what?
Amazing.
Like that shocked me into like, okay, this is a whole thing, right?
That happened to me, but the opposite.
Okay.
I wanted the pills.
Because of you.
Do you have anything? No. Kidding. That's amazing. Well, that's laughter is healing, and we're healing.
Yeah.
People.
Well, and you know what?
Shake out of those emotions.
Laughter is healing, Casey, which is why we're doing this tour. Why God has inspired me to start a tour of 25 to 30 cities featuring the best Christian comedians, clean comedians in the country. Because a lot of people, they prefer the dirty stuff, they prefer the profanity, and I'm not throwing, those type of guys under the bus, but people feel better when they don't hear a lot of sewer language.
Language. Where'd you get that term
or gutter language, if you see what I'm saying.
Maurice.
You see what I'm saying? It's like, wow. Okay, I feel like I actually had someone say that to me after show, and I'm in the middle of like five other comedians that are not clean, and I was the only comic on the bill that was clean, and a guy thanked me for being clean after the show. He's like, I didn't even realize you weren't cussing until about 60 seconds in. This guy's not cussing. Great. So people do appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
And
what's funny too is that the audiences are getting better too, because there was a time where you would just go, oh, comedy, I'm going to go to comedy, but it's got as many genres as music. You don't just go say, hey, music, let's just go. There'll be music, and then you show up, and you're like, they're rapping? What is this? Like, do some research a little bit on the show. There's YouTube, there's things like look up the comedian and go, oh, this is a style I would really enjoy. I should support this one. Even more.
Yes.
So just got to do a little research. For a long time, they'd go to a political show like, I can't stand political humor. Like, this is a well-known political comedian. That's what he does.
So, Casey,
good point.
With that being said, it's like after COVID-19, I think comedy has changed a little bit. What's your opinion of the state of comedy in 2024?
Well, I know initially when it was nice because I think the real comedians stayed. The real comedians kept doing it. There's a lot of people that it was a hobby, or they just kind of did it, or like the title of it, it broke away. The comics that weren't really in it. So that was kind of, you kind of got now there's a lot of pure comedians out there, at least pursuing it, potential, and there was what I loved about it. It was so much, we all related to it. We all went through that. So all the things, the masks, the arrow, they had arrows in our Publix, you have to go down this aisle or whatever, these things that we all saw. Like I do a joke, I go, I went to go get the vaccine and I saw everyone was at Publix, I can get it at Publix. And I'm waiting, I'm thinking, okay, if this can help, I'm waiting in line. Then I realized the guy that's going to give me the shot is the same guy that messed up my buffalo chicken sub yesterday.
Yeah.
I go, this is my doctor now, Publix. This guy can't handle hot sauce. Now he's my MD. I'm not okay with this.
Yeah.
Hey, Melissa. Sample lady around. She seems a little more secure with what she's doing.
Yes.
So yes. What's funny, but we can laugh more because we all probably saw the places where you can get the shot or things that we all went through. The relatability was there. That's what I did love about that crazy time we went through.
Yes. Right. Yes.
So, and I came back stronger, man. Because I've been doing it. I was doing it 20 plus years at that time, and producing my own shows nonstop. And I was like, kind of I go, good. I needed a break because I do all kinds of work. But when I came back, it was like, this may not. We might have lost this. So I came back stronger, and I think a lot of comics did.
Yeah, one thing I have noticed about open mics, like I went out before COVID-19. It might be 15, maybe 10 or 15 comedians at these mics. You just want to work your material out and practice. After COVID, there are like 50 comedians in there, and I'm like, where do all these people come from?
Well, it might have jump-started some people too that said, what have I been waiting for?
Yeah, but I'm old. I want to go. I want to get my set done and go to bed.
Yeah, come on.
I'm too old for this anyway. So
they got their motivation.
Seniority. So now I was doing this pre-COVID. I get to go first. There's a pre-COVID list and a post-COVID list. Which one are you signing up for?
Yeah. Well, I want to play a documentary trailer that was done by a comedian friend of mine by the name of Donnie Stopa out of Tampa. And he talks about the
Donnie,
invasion of the cancel culture. Do you know Donnie?
Yeah.
And so and hopefully this will be coming out on a platform soon. But this is the trailer where he talks about cancel culture invading stand-up, and it's become a problem. No matter if you're clean or not, it's just kind of an issue. So I'm going to play that, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about it. Donnie Stopa's comedy versus the cancel culture.
Cancel culture. We're talking about censorship in comedy. Do you think that cancel culture exists in comedy?
Basically, in a nutshell.
Definitely feel like, as bizarre as it sounds, like there's a war on jokes right now.
Cancel culture, it's such a misdirected umbrella term. You can't police what is subjective.
Oh, wow! Like, you kind of have to live your life bulletproof now. You just have to.
Greatest night in the history of television.
You can't say an inappropriate joke that doesn't have the right context.
There's always going to be some sliver of cancel culture, of woke, of political correctness.
You're not funny, and this is how you have to do the joke, because I know how funny jokes work. That's not the joke.
I don't believe people get canceled. I believe that they have a shift in their audience.
Put your hands together for Mr. Joe Rogan!
When people say somebody is canceled, I think it just means, oh, we found they did or said something that most people don't like.
I date a lot of bimbos. That's the problem, man.
So what?
So, let's think about that joke in today's culture.
Well, let's think about that joke in today's culture. Let me just ask this. I think the most cataclysmic moment in that trailer was Will Smith slapping Chris Rock. How much do you guys feel that moment alone kind of changed comedy or the vibe of comedy?
I don't know. I didn't really think of it. That was crazy. I know everyone was on guard that you can go and jump up on stage if you don't like what you're hearing.
Yes.
And I think there's just a lot of entitledness with social media, and that people have, how many people are living their lives just complaining on Facebook, and like that. And I find an identity in being a victim or finding the thing that wasn't. Like, I went back 12 years, and you made a joke about Snickers, and Snickers are off the market because they're killing people, whatever. They find some, like, I didn't know Snickers was, whatever, hypothetically. Yeah. But I think, everyone's want to have a voice. So, like, I haven't spoken in a while. At this comedian has been up for 45 minutes. I need to find something I'm not okay with.
Yeah.
So, Right.
Yeah.
And there is no perfect blend. You're never going to not hit something that happened in someone's life.
Well,
Right.
Fefe, have you ever felt like maybe you have crossed a line, or do you ever worry that you might cross a line, or do you just have a comfort zone, depending on your normal audience? I'm not going to make anybody mad. They know what I'm going to say.
I know I've crossed the line with my kids, so I can imagine. No,
Okay.
But you get angry at your kids, but you got to keep your cool. I had a lady, I headlined the Riverside Theater in Vero, and she just kept talking. I thought she had a huge tattoo on her face the whole time. So I'm like, oh, this isn't interesting. And they were a party table, they were partying. And afterwards, she was a makeup artist. She does kids face paint. And this was one of her, she was self-promoting herself. But in the lights of this, I'm thinking I got this I got the Mike Tyson's wife coming at me. And like, what's going to happen next? So you got to control the show, but you got to put her in her place. But at one point, like, she came and my shoe was slightly untied. And so she ran up on stage and grabbed at my foot. And I pulled my foot back and I was really pissed. And I'm like, I go, don't touch me. Tone I wouldn't have used all during the set. And I didn't feel good about it. But she was totally out of line because I'm like, I need to stay in control. That's my job.
Yeah.
Too. Now, if you're going to use explosive material and offensive stuff, it's a risk reward. You got to be skilled at it. And if you can get it to work, it's a huge payoff. But you could hit some words or hit some people. And, if, you have a mentally challenged family member, it's hard to hear even just that topic being come up, because this is also a release for them. That's a difficult life. So there's no way that we all have some kind of hurt. And I think a lot of people probably just go, oh, I'm not going to go see this comedian again. But then I think having a voice of social media, people are like, I'm supposed to speak. I've done it every day. I post every day on it. So,
Casey, I got to tell you, I think it's probably a good idea not to go to a comedy show if you're sensitive.
Right.
Just don't go.
That too. That's the same thing.
Just don't go in.
Some people don't know, though.
Yeah.
They don't. Some people don't realize how sensitive they are until they're in the situation. It's
right.
Kind of scary.
Well, Fefe, my question is, where did this sensitivity come from? This didn't happen in the 70s. Richard Pryor did deal with stuff. Richard Pryor and George Carlin, those guys, those guys were probably as and they didn't have this problem that we're having in 2024, 2023. Everyone's getting upset about different things, it seems to me.
And I think it's a question of artistic taste a lot of times, because some of the things that people are offended by isn't necessarily, vulgarity or, word usage.
No,
it's basically something that you find funny that I don't find funny. And it's very subjective. And I think as an artist, for me, because I'm an artist, not just someone who advocates for comedians, I'm an artist. So I understand that art is subjective. And sometimes what I may feel is, an amazing show, someone else might think is straight trash. And I am not going to, try to berate or belittle that person for not understanding the context of how I myself thoroughly enjoyed this, because you don't understand it, and that's okay. This actually reminds me even more than the Will Smith incident. Do you remember when Kevin Hart was supposed to be hosting the Oscars?
Yes.
And they brought up a clip about him talking about his son from like 10 years prior.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they had this whole campaign.
I'm scrolling back 10 years, and I was going to see.
Yeah, like, let me find something that I can use to, berate this person and make others feel like this person does not, belong in this space because of something that was said about something that I don't agree on. And it was just like, the joke was funny, but because of the context of the joke, some people found it offensive. And it was just like, okay.
Well,
but did you guys really have to go back 10 years and find this joke to disqualify him? Yeah, they were looking for it.
They were looking for it. Yeah, they were looking for something. Yeah.
And at the time, Kevin Hart was the biggest comedian on the planet. He deserved to host the Oscars that year.
Him to have that job.
Well,
and I think he apologize for it in the past to some extent already. But we need another apology.
We want it written and stamped and notarized.
Yeah. How much is enough?
Well, I think,
and it's not like then you didn't know that either. It's like that's your fault if for hiring them if this was going to be such an issue.
Right.
So, Shane Gillis had it with Saturday Night Live. They hire him and they go, "Oh, he did a Chinese, offensive Chinese voice on a podcast, and some of our Chinese backers don't like it. We're firing him right after."
See, that's what I'm talking about right there, Casey.
Yeah.
We're living in a time now where it is so easy to offend. Whereas maybe we didn't have a filter back in the 70s and 80s that we needed. I don't know, but everybody had a great time, regardless to what the comedian was talking about up there.
I think it goes back to what Casey's saying, though, what Casey said about how people literally wake up every day looking for an opportunity to voice their opinion about something they don't like. And social media has changed a lot of that, because people can cause a post or a comment or a thought to go viral, and then all of a sudden it gets the attention of so many people that now these companies have to pay attention to it, or they fear, that their bottom line is going to get, tampered with.
Yeah, either realizing I'm getting more reactions when I'm this way, when I post victim stuff or calling someone else out, and they're looking at the likes and the comments. That's their
right.
And
not even caring, Casey. That's a good point. Not even caring about the consequences of whose life it's going to ruin. What's going to happen as opposed to that. But if I post this and everybody shares it and I get 3 million shares and 200,000 likes, I'm going to get paid. I don't care who life I ruin. Whatever.
I like when I think I posted something funny. I'm not a political humorist, but I put something funny with Hillary, and it was something that wasn't left or right. It was just funny, and it happened to be about Hillary. I posted it, and this person who was a friend of ours, we gave free tickets to all the time, started going off on me, and she was very passionate about Hillary, and she goes, "What if people see this? What I go then, and they don't come to your shows?" I go, then they don't come. And then she started posting on Facebook, "Casey hates women, and he doesn't want anyone that's going to vote for Hillary to come to his show." I go, "You blew that up." When I just said, then if you're offended by that, then you don't come to the show. You shouldn't come to a comedy show if you can't even handle a light joke. It was, it was a light jab, if anything.
Well, that's my whole point right there, Casey. Yeah. I don't understand.
Now I'm going to attack your business. I'm like, you've never even paid. I'd give you tickets. Not only you're a friend that gets free tickets several times. I don't know if you've ever paid for a ticket. And now you're like, "Can you believe this?" I'm like, "This is going to push Hillary over the top."
Casey, I did a show about where I told a joke about a guy in a fishnet shirt on the interstate. And my wife had shared the story with me. She watched this incident on the interstate, and the guy had a fishnet shirt. Long story short, there was a guy in the audience with a fishnet shirt on that was offended because I'm talking about the fishnet shirt. And the booker, it was a private event. So the booker came up to the stage and interrupted me and said, "You just offended my nephew. He's gay. Can you apologize?" Do you believe that?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean, in the middle of the set.
Was there any fish? Whoa. Did he have any fish in the shirt at least? Did the net work?
I think he had a hook caught in the net.
I'm going fishing after this, Maurice.
Listen, dude, I apologize because I wanted to get the check, but at the end, there were people in the audience that were like, "You shouldn't have apologized."
Yeah,
I would never have done that. There was nothing wrong with what you said.
Right.
If it's direct deposit, if I was prepaid, there would be no apology.
That's terrible, Casey.
She just went hard with it, man. She just gave me the check right down the spot. Anyway, here's the deal.
That's crazy.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching the Maurice Brown Comedy Show on Bod Radio.
Listen, if you're coming to the show August 3rd, plus use early bird promo code, take advantage of that. Comedy in the Kingdom tour. Do not wear a fishnet shirt. We are telling you now. We have proper air conditioning. Do not wear the fishnet shirt.
Well, if you do wear a fishnet shirt, it's okay. Come on in.
Yeah, all right.
Anyway,
We'll take you. We're pro fishnet.
It's all right.
We don't care what you are. Come just laugh. That's what.
Just come and laugh. My gosh.
Casey's like, come and laugh. But then when you look at his photo on the flyer, he looks like an action hero.
Yeah,
getting ready to blow some stuff up.
Yeah, he does. He looks like the villain in one of those Steven Seagal movies or something. Yeah, that's true. Very, very good, Fefe. You're gonna have to lighten it up, Casey. Anyway,
where are all the phone booths
at? Yeah. Well, speaking of comedy being an issue, how do you deal with hecklers on stage, Casey?
Never give them the microphone. I've seen guys do that. They're like, let's see what you got. And then the guy crushes them. I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Always address it for the most. I mean, sometimes I can't stand hecklers that have horrible timing. Like, where could I stop?
Horrible timing.
Yeah, they have horrible timing. It's like, now's the time you want to say something when I'm about to knock an uppercut out of the punchline. Yeah. I always can't stand that. So I try to ignore when it's going to affect the joke. But after a while, sometimes you can't. I had a guy that just kept talking, and I kept nailing him, boom, boom, boom. But it's like the alcohol was not stopping him. He just
no. It's not going to do anything.
I go, okay. And then he stopped and they started up again. And I was having a great set. And I go, okay, let's do a survey here. Who wants to hear more from this guy, everyone? And I had everyone stop and look at this guy. And nobody, clapped or raised their hand. I go, how about you want to have me continue making you laugh? Wow, they all start cheering and going crazy. And then it's so funny. A woman at the same table, I was riffing with another woman where she goes, oh, I have 7 kids. I go, wow, 7. I go, what are their names? And she goes, huh? I go, do you even know your kids' names at that point? And then another woman across the room is all offended. I go, she's dumb because she's a woman? Is that what you're trying to say?
There it is.
The same table that I was at before.
There it is, Casey. Yes.
I go, well, let's see. I am at a comedy show, so I'm trying to make some jokes. And she goes, well, you're not funny. I go, let's do another survey. Who thinks that I'm funny? And the place goes crazy. So it's like, all these people paid too. It's not just your show. Have some respect for everyone else. So sometimes you just got to have that reality that the whole room is looking at them.
Right.
And then I'm asking them to choose. Like there's a vote on the line. So that usually is like, but usually
let's take a survey.
I like crowd work. I like doing crowd work. So I like talking to the people because that's fun and you can just prove that you're funny and you find something out about them and you can call it back when you're doing jokes that might hit them. So it makes you get these little circles of energy through the room going on. So I like a little chatty crowd for the most, but sometimes you have to we're stopping the show till this table shuts up.
Yeah.
And they even call it like, are you guys done now or can you leave? Because
I think Casey just dipped out on us. Hopefully he'll be coming back soon. But I think crowd work is important. I think if you're really good at crowd work, I think that can add greatly to your set. What do you think about that, Fefe?
I think that's a great point because it lets the audience know that you're not afraid of them. And it's always a really good thing when the audience can trust you as a professional.
Yeah.
Because I'm able to have a conversation with you, not miss a beat, keep going with my punchlines, and also include you in the show. I think they appreciate, the creativity in those moments, and they appreciate you being able to speak to whatever's happening in the room too.
Yeah.
I always get a lot of compliments from promoters and people who book me. They're like, I really like when that part you did with the audience. That was cool when you brought that part back around and you reminded everybody. And I try to do that more and more because my first 2 years in, I didn't do that. I was like, oh no, I'm gonna do the jokes I wrote and I'm gonna go sit down because I don't know y'all like that. But the last, I've been doing comedy for 18 years. So the last, last 7-8 years, I've been, incorporating it more and more. And it really, I think it also helps the audience to kind of relax. Like, okay, they know what they're doing. We can kind of chill. And thinking about, those hecklers, my favorite my favorite tactic, especially when I'm doing like an event where there's like dinner or whatever, like they just finished dinner and, you know, they're serving desserts or whatever. There was this one event where the ladies at the table just kept talking. And the only thing they had on their table was like cheesecake or something. And I was just like, okay. And I walked over to the table and just started staring at them. And everybody in the audience started laughing. And I was like, okay, so what is it? How good is the cheesecake? And everybody started laughing. And they was like, oh.
Yeah, they're in their own world.
And I'll have some of this cake, you know. They were cracking up. And I was like, they were so embarrassed. But they didn't realize they were talking so loud. I'm like, nobody can hear me because y'all are cackling about cheesecake.
When something unexpected like a heckler or whatever happens, it's good to learn how to, you know, fight through that. I mean, I did a show in Florida where this girl was a long ball hitter on the LPGA tour, right? Young, beautiful blonde girl, and she wouldn't stop heckling the comedian. She kept interrupting. So I'm up there and she's doing her thing. She's interrupting. So another girl at the bar gets angry with her, and these two start jawing at each other.
Oh, funny.
While I'm trying to
turn them on each other. That's a good plan.
I'm trying to do my set. These
Darwin
two girls
themselves out.
These two beautiful girls are about to fight each other in the middle of the set. I didn't know what to do. So after I just didn't know how to handle that. So afterward, the comic said, you should have started doing a play-by-play of the fight.
That would have been oh, there's a left hook.
Yes.
Hagler goes down. Hagler goes down.
It's good for that stuff to happen. So you go, okay, you learn from it, add it to your toolbox if something like that happens again or whatever.
Definitely, you got to just address it. And when crowd work happens, like I try to initiate the crowd work, so hecklers will help me with that. But when I can knock down someone a peg, it's funny to 99% of the place. I'm not that person. I'll take those odds. Everyone's happy they're not that person. Most, it's a good 50% that won't interact at all. And they're like, I'm just so happy I'm not involved in this at all. And it's making me laugh that I'm not involved. So just that alone.
Yeah. One of the funniest moments I can remember from and this lady, it's funny because I did this probably like 15 years ago. And every time I see this lady, I see her all the time. She always talks about what I said to her and her husband. I was doing my joke about married couples. And I was like, anybody in the room, I always do like a survey of how long they've been married. And her and her husband have been married for like 45 years.
Yeah.
And when I surveyed them and they were like 45 years, I was like, oh, did y'all get married on Noah's Ark? Baby, the entire audience was like rolling. And it just kind of came out. I wasn't planning on messing with anybody and saying that out loud. 15 years later, she's like, yeah, I'm Noah's Ark. You remember me? And I'm like, me.
Oh my goodness. The best.
I know my built-in joke. I do the same thing. My built-in joke is, you find out who's married the longest, and you find that I go, okay, you got a 52, you got a 57. You know what? I'm buying you guys a round of drinks on me. Can I get 4 coconut Ensures over here? The protein for seniors drinks. Come on, they're gonna need that hip strength for later. But yeah.
Well, listen, guys, before we get out of here, how can our audience follow you? We'll start with you, Casey, on social media or by website.
Yes, our website, so I've been doing comedy for 25 years. I became a comedy producer 15 years ago.
Okay.
And in the Treasure Coast area where we're going to be in Fort Pierce. We also do a show in Fort Pierce at the Sunrise Theater in downtown Fort Pierce at the Black Box. It's like a 200-seat room. We've been there for 12 years now.
Okay.
But we're all over in Stewart. We got a show in the Lyric Theater coming up. So CNS Comedy is for Casey and Spaz. It's my uncle. He's a wild rock and roll, long hair, tall guy. And we do a 2-man show, most of our shows as a host. Yes, rock and roll. And so CNS Comedy for that. And add me on Instagram for Casey Peru, just like the name you see. Just take the ski off the end. Casey Peru on Instagram. Follow me there and see all our upcoming events like this great one, August 3rd.
All right. And Fefe, how about yourself?
Oh, well, listen, everything is at Comedian Fefe on social media. So follow me on Instagram. So that's comedian Fefe. It's COMEDIANFEFE, because some people do FIFI. And I don't like that. Also, my website is www.comedianfefe.com. It's currently up, but it's like under construction. Still has some good info up there though, but it's going to be new in a couple of weeks. And also, I'll be doing a comedy show this Friday if anybody's in the area in Miami Gardens. We're going to be at Antioch Missionary Baptist Church. It's really nice church down there. They're doing a summer comedy series, and I'm going to be headlining this coming Friday. So
I'm going to get on down there. I'm going to check you out. That's going to be at Antioch Baptist Church at what time?
I think it starts at 7. Don't quote me, but it's on Eventbrite. If you guys want to check it out,
I'm going to mosey on down there and see if I can check this show out. No question about it. The show that we're talking about here is Comedy in the Kingdom. Comedy in the Kingdom tour, Saturday, August 3rd, with these two fine people that you're looking at on the screen, along with myself. I will host. That's Casey Peruski right there. That's the villain on the Steven Seagal movies that you normally see. And also Felicia Fefe Frazier. Guys, thanks so much for being.
Country.
Thanks so. All right, guys, thanks so much for being on the show. And as I always say, may the peace of Christ be with you and your families, everybody. God bless.
Hey, God bless y'all.